Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's about a minute after the hour, and really want to be respectful of everybody's time, but especially the content tonight, as it is each month, we think is so rich, very exciting. Welcome again to the Holy Cross Institute webinar series for the 2021-2022 academic year. Our theme for the year, and welcome Sister Patricia from Lima, Peru. Our theme for the year is forming citizens for this world and for heaven. And each of the monthly installments of our webinar series is really focused on Catholic social teaching and what does citizenship look like, right? And at a local level, at a school level, at a national, at an international, at a global level, care for creation, and of course, citizenship in heaven. And so throughout the year, our theme will focus on those various principles. Tonight, we pause from that theme for a moment. This is the year of St. Joseph as we continue to celebrate the year of St. Joseph. And this week we celebrated the 11th anniversary of the canonization of St. Brother Andre Bessette. So we are super delighted to have with us Father Mike DeLaney, who is the rector at the St. Joseph's Oratory in Montreal, who's going to show you just some spectacular pictures shortly of the oratory. But before we get started, let me just tell you a little bit very quickly for those that are new, wondering who is the Holy Cross Institute and what is it that we do. The Holy Cross Institute represents a partnership that was created in 2004 between the Moreau province of Holy Cross Brothers and the Midwest province of Holy Cross Brothers and the university here at St. Edward's University. The original visionary, Dr. George Martin, the president at the time, and Brother Stephen Walsh said, let's look to create a space here at St. Edward's that could continue to provide academic resources utilizing the IFT pedagogical model to provide resources and information and programs and leadership development and retreats, and ultimately so that we could help to continue the spirit and legacy, the educational charism and mission of the Congregation of Holy Cross. Collectively, in the family of Holy Cross, there's over 120 schools, colleges, and universities in 21 countries around the world. And that's inclusive of the men and women. So the priests, brothers, and then the sisters from the three sisters branches, Sisters of Holy Cross, Sisters of the Holy Cross, and the Maronite Sisters of Holy Cross. Collectively, there's about 110,000 students who are attending our schools every single day. So when we begin to think about the impact of a Holy Cross education, there's 110,000 people every day who are receiving these messages and ultimately fulfilling that vision that Moreau said, that we can move, direct, and sanctify the whole world. Those of you that are on social media, we invite you. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. I'm not quite sure how to use the Instagram, but AJ does. We're on Twitter. We have our YouTube channel as well. And then you can see down at the bottom, we developed a new app. There's a prayer app. If you're interested in receiving a daily quote from Moreau, it's called the Daily Moreau. It's available on the Google Play Store for those of you on Android. We're working on the Apple app. We think it'll be released within the next couple of weeks. As well, we've just dropped into the chat, and I think, AJ, that only went to the panelists. Now it went to everybody. Okay, we also dropped into the chat that if you would like to sign up for our newsletter, get more information about the Holy Cross Institute, there's a great link for you to follow. Next slide, please, AJ. And so to get us started tonight, we're going to start as we do all things, and that's with prayer. Really delighted to welcome our assistant director here at the Holy Cross Institute, Meg Turgeon, who has written this prayer and has been writing all of our prayers in this new year. So if you've followed us on any of our social media sources, you've seen some of these prayers. But Megs, why don't you go ahead and get us started tonight?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Marco, and thank you again to Father Mike. We'll go ahead and begin in prayer in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Saint Brother Andre, orphaned at a young age, you wandered from place to place until you found your family and made your home in the Holy Cross community. As a brother of the congregation, you were renowned for your constant humility and simplicity, your selfless service, your fervent devotion to St. Joseph, and your extraordinary ability to heal through the power of your touch and earnest prayers. Your own struggles with illness and poor health gave you a keen awareness of pain and suffering, and so you dedicated yourself to the healing of others. Never one to take credit for the power of God or the intercession of his saints, You attributed your myriad miracles to the powerful intercessions of Saint Joseph. Through him, you brought the healing and compassionate touch of Christ, the great physician, to the sick and needy masses. In doing so, you reminded the church that Joseph is our fatherly advocate and loving friend, whose prayers on our behalf are ceaseless and efficacious. Saint Brother Andre, miracle man of Montreal, in a world plagued by physical and spiritual illnesses, we implore once more your powerful intercession to bring healing to our many infirmities. Heal us, we humbly ask, of our physical and psychological ailments, our spiritual maladies, and our callousness towards the injustices that characterize our modern age. On this anniversary of your canonization, we ask you, who now reside in the intimate presence of God, to pray for the sick and suffering, for the poor and rejected, for the church, for the congregation of Holy Cross, and for all who commit themselves to the service of Jesus Christ and his gospel. May our hearts, like yours, be always open to the plight of the hurting, the downtrodden, and the vulnerable. Help us grow in our devotion to Saint Joseph, the great patron and protector of the universal church, who constantly intercedes on our behalf to show us the fullness of Christ's power and glory. Grant us a share in the love that defined your life, the humility that marked your service, and the zeal that characterized your faith. Saint Brother Andre, pray for us. Saint Joseph, pray for us. Amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you so much, Megs. And we're going to drop an electronic copy of that prayer as well into your chat. Absolutely beautiful. We've got some wonderful remarks that are coming through here, including from Brazil. So thank you, Megs. I want to take a moment too, just to thank our sponsor. You know, the programs that we offer through the Holy Cross Institute, you may or may not be aware that these programs are offered at no charge to the schools, communities that we serve. And in order to make our programs work, we have to raise money each year. And a part of that is seeking corporate support. Catholic Virtual has been a wonderful partner for us. If you, your school, if you know students who are looking for some online classes, whether it be an option to make up credit, to take classes, or to offer classes that your school doesn't offer already, Catholic Virtual can set up unique programs, which really, I think, can help each of the schools in achieving their mission. They do this in the US and they do this internationally. And they even have relationships for dual enrollment and dual credit if people are looking to create opportunities for their students to earn college credit while still in high school. So we want to thank our sponsors at Catholic Virtual. And as I mentioned, we always are in need of support and sponsorships. And so if you know of anyone, have a business that might want to advertise, we have an international audience, and it's a wonderful opportunity to support this meaningful mission. They can contact me for more information on that. Next slide, please, Max. So I know after a year and a half of doing meetings on Zoom, most people have probably suffer from Zoom fatigue, but just some quick tips tonight that we're going to be taking your questions through the chat. If you run into any technical difficulties, you can drop that into the chat, or you can email us at HCI, HCI@stedwards.edu. And we'll keep an eye out for that. AJ will keep an eye out for that and help to troubleshoot as needed. Want to remind everybody that this is being recorded tonight and that we'll send out the recording to everyone that's in attendance. We'll send that out tomorrow, and then we'll post it on our YouTube channel as well for anybody else to enjoy. It will be shareable for people to forward it on. And without further ado, I really want to just thank, you're in for a huge treat tonight. To have Father Mike DeLaney with us this evening, coming to us from Montreal. I first met Father Mike when he was working at Notre Dame College Prep in Niles as president at that time. And then I had the really good pleasure to travel on the Marionite-sponsored international session in Le Mans for 2 weeks with Father Mike. We've remained friends throughout. He's been a great supporter to the Holy Cross Institute. And Father Mike, I don't want to take away any more of your time because you have so much to offer this evening, but thank you. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and it's great to be with all of you. Thank you for this welcome. I know there are some from Latin America, so I say muito obrigado for those from Brazil, muchas gracias from those from Peru and Chile, and other parts of the world. I just want to say thank you as well. It's a real privilege to share with you in this year of St. Joseph, being asked to serve here at St. Joseph's Oratory as the rector. I'm finishing my first year as the rector, so it's been an interesting year. And when Pope Francis announced the year of St. Joseph, it was about the same time I was officially became the rector. And I honestly found it to be a moment of great grace and hope for us, because we were closed down and we could not reach out pastorally, and we had to do the work of the oratory the best that we could. And if you could, if you want to go to that one picture with the next one. Yeah. This is our Crypt Chapel, the statue of St. Joseph, over 100 years old. It would have been here in the original stained glass behind it, would have been here in the time of Brother Andre. Believe me, when we were celebrating masses there and praying and we started our social media, it was 6 of us here and nobody else in a very cold church. And that statue and the thoughts of St. Joseph, it invited me to do a lot of reflection and prayer. So what I'm going to share with you is really more of a personal pastoral reflection on who St. Joseph was. What I found out about the oratory is that it's respected and well known across the world, because we got requests from Latin America, throughout Europe, the Philippines, India, Africa. I actually had interviews on Catholic radio of Mozambique in Portuguese, and Catholic radio in Cameroon in French, and never would I have ever imagined this, along with different media from Latin America. And what I discovered, which I'd always felt on kinship with St. Joseph, was some beautiful things, and how his impact on us, his impact was on Andre, but I think is on our church today as well. And I want to share a bit of that in the beginning. We know that St. Joseph, who we honor in this special year, was a man of great grace and humility. He was a man of deep faith, even though he questioned many aspects of his faith. Many things he questioned it, but he trusted in God. And I think his example of that trust is one that is strong for all of us today, especially in difficult times. We all have probably our COVID stories, our pandemic stories of suffering of people that we know closely, or perhaps some of us here have had it's had a real impact on us in our lives. Hopefully St. Joseph, in his humility and his faith and his openness to God, is also an example to us. I believe that he was the town carpenter. I grew up in a small town in New York. I kind of started to imagine that this man, everybody knew him. He did the work for everybody. They trusted his work. And he was probably the kind of guy that did the work and didn't really charge anybody if they couldn't pay and all that. And St. Joseph had such a huge impact on the humanity of Jesus. We have to remember that Jesus grew up in his family, and his role model was his father. So much of what he learned from his father through his example and through his words. And a couple of these that I have a few, but I'm just going to highlight a couple where I believe that Joseph's model for Jesus is so important that I want us to take a moment and to look at it. And this would be in that next set of pictures, where we could go to how do we know St. Joseph in the life of Jesus, and then for our church today. If we could first go down to this is just a replica of a nativity, but it implies Joseph's faith and questioning, but his willingness to do what God asked of him. And we know how difficult that must have been, but he did it. It's a challenge, and it's a great gift for us. This particular one I want to take a moment with. Jesus was so important in this parable from Luke of the Samaritan woman at the well. It was Jesus who respected this woman. Jesus who helped her to see her own dignity. Jesus who looked her in the eyes and recognized her humanity. And I believe, as I reflect on this parable from Luke, I believe that the father of Jesus, the earthly father, Joseph, through his dedication to the Blessed Mother, his constant respect for people, but especially for women, I think Jesus learned that as a child. Jesus always had that example from his father. And I think that we are offered that from the life of St. Joseph as we think about our own families, our communities today, our church today. We must follow in the steps of Joseph in the respect and the dignity, especially of women. And I think that this interaction of Jesus is an example for us, and Joseph in and of himself, what is also an example in his life, dedication and fidelity to the Blessed Mother, and the example that he was for Jesus. This is the example that Brother Andre, who became so close to St. Joseph as well, would see in any of us who believe in this, on the dignity of women, the respect and for their role in our church, and the gratitude that each one of us as a part of the Holy Cross family have, that we're part of a religious community and a religious family where the sisters, the brothers, and the priests, we're all in it together. It's so unique, and it's absolutely beautiful as to what defines us, and it's our richness. Another moment I would like to refer to, this would have been like the family and just Jesus looking up at his father, just admiring, learning, watching him as children do. They watch their parents, they watch their teachers. As we look at the, I believe this picture here, I put up two pictures. What has fascinated me is the death of Joseph. We don't have this in our Gospels, but there's some wonderful artists' works of the death of Joseph. And I want to share with you for a moment what I believe is happening here and how Jesus took that in his life as Joseph as his mentor, and how we can take it in our lives when we have to accept death, and especially in this time of pandemic. Look at these images of Joseph in the bed surrounded by his son and by the Blessed Mother. He's saying goodbye. We all know that the best deaths when someone is ill is to be able to say goodbye, and we also all suffered or knew people who couldn't be with their loved ones during this difficult year, myself included. And they were difficult times. And maybe that's why this speaks so much to me. I imagine in this death of Joseph, he's saying to his son, take care of your mother. Be good to your mother. You're here. I'm leaving now. Be good to your mother. Take care of her. Wouldn't that be what any father would want to say to his son and his wife as he knows his time has come? And what that moved me to think about seriously and very personally, when Jesus died on the cross, after all the suffering that he had in his own life, what happened? He forgave the others beside him. He gave them forgiveness and the promise of redemption. And he said to John, behold your mother. And to his mother, this is your son. I think this example of how I understand this image of the death of Jesus, of the death of Joseph, is how I understand what Jesus did in his moment of death. His father taught him throughout his life, and I am convinced when I look at the crucifixion pictures now, the works of the crucifixion and the stained glass window or a piece of art, I imagine that Jesus in and of itself is also calling to mind what Joseph taught him. He helped him learn how to die with dignity. He helped him learn how to share those important words in saying goodbye. And for me, those two of his respect and treatment of women, and I think his teaching of his son in this last moments of his life left a great impact on me. I think that this is the person of St. Joseph. If we could continue, I believe the next slide, this is with permission, Brother Mickey Mcgrath. Some of you may have seen some of his work. He's in New Jersey. He does some beautiful work, and he's done a lot on St. Joseph. But I love this one in one sense because it says, go to Joseph and then go to Jesus. It shows the Father with the Son, but then it shows the Son with the Father. And often when St. Joseph is depicted in the imagery, he's holding this flower. And so there's an image there about family. Now it's father-son, but it could be parent-child. It could be the person who's like the parent figure with the young person. Care for them, and then we all have a responsibility to care for the others. So I share that with you. It's very brief, but some real thoughts about what this year is about. That's on a personal level. The next one is on family. And that next picture is a picture of a family here on our terrace outside. One of the many families that comes to the Oratory as a family, and they come seeking an understanding of who St. Joseph is as it allows them to live in their family. And what's wonderful is all families count. And here, all families count. The concept of the traditional family is less than it was, but any family where there is love and where there is that sense of belonging, where a child feels like they belong to the adults and the adults care for that child and love that child. That's the family, and that's the family which we always want to be able to invite and to come to the Oratory, but also to look at St. Joseph as their model. So St. Joseph is a model for ourselves, for family, but also, as we go to the next slide, our church. Our church is going through a beautiful process right now of the synod led by Pope Francis. It's just beginning, and it's starting to fill out to the different dioceses and archdioceses across the world. Hopefully, many of them are participating. Last week, there was a beautiful reflection by Cardinal Tagle, the former Archbishop Cardinal of the Philippines, and now I believe he's the director of the propagation of the faith, oversees the life of the church in Asia and Africa. He's a wonderful man. He's a friend of Holy Cross. And he wrote a reflection last week. It was in the Vatican News. And he talked about who is Joseph for the synod. So this is my part of who is Joseph for our church. Joseph listened. He listened to God's will. And Joseph was open to the change. Joseph was open to the way that God moved in him and through his life. And Cardinal Tagle's point is that we must be that as church. The key part of communication, the key part of the synod is listening. But we as the church, all of us as the church, lay, religious, young, old, whoever we may be, not only do we want to listen, but we want to be open to the change that this listening and this dialogue takes us. I think we can be proud of our connection in the Holy Cross family, that so many want to do that, and let us continue to do that together. Okay, so in this year of St. Joseph, how do we see the influence in the life of Brother Andre? How about for ourselves as educators in the faith? And how about for our multicultural and international context? So in the life of Brother Andre, one of the reasons that Brother Andre, I always wonder what was it that drew him to St. Joseph. And I first just have a few pictures that I want you to see of original pictures of Brother Andre that we don't always get a chance to see. And we'll just go through these, but I thought that might be, this one's so important. This is Brother Andre, who we always knew as the doorkeeper at Colegio Notre Dame, which, well, it's dark now, but if I look out my window in my office, I look right at Colegio Notre Dame. This is the front door. This is the door where Andre was for 40 years of his life, receiving students and families. And then those students became parents, and some of them became grandparents, receiving generations of people who would come to him, who came to know him and love him. Now, what we don't always realize, he was also the building mechanic, and he put the coal in the furnace for the morning so there was heat, and he did all kinds of things. But this, at this door where it opened, this was the place where Andre's ministry thrived, and where people came to believe in him so much, and where the miracles started happening. The next slide was his dream to build a chapel dedicated to St. Joseph. St. Joseph was the patron saint of Canada, is the patron saint. He would have always known about him. But I probably, as an orphan child and with very difficult life, he probably had a special affinity as well to St. Joseph. Now, this chapel is still currently here. It's up on the hill now. It was moved, but this was the original chapel of Brother Andre's dream, his first dream of building a chapel dedicated to St. Joseph. And this very much so received all kinds of pilgrims who would come for his blessing. He had his room there and he would receive people. And I had two great uncles myself that came from Syracuse, New York. One had been born with polio and one had been injured in World War I. And they used to come to visit Brother Andre and seek his blessing. And when the first day I walked into that chapel after I arrived here, and then you see all the little words of thanks and plaques around and all the crutches that were left, it's really a sacred place. And I thought, my goodness, my own family came here to see Brother Andre, as did hundreds and hundreds of people. And they were also one of the, or two of those of the million who came to his funeral services that were held the first week of January of 1937. Now imagine that in Montreal in the winter, and over 1 million came to give thanks to our Brother Andre. So the impact of his life on so many for healing, that Andre found himself in a position that people started giving trust in him, and he continued to ask them to continue to pray for St. Joseph, to St. Joseph. This is the Crypt Church. The first picture was taken about just over 100 years ago, and the other picture was taken very recently, probably 2 years ago. And what you see is, you might have remembered in the beginning, we had the picture with the statue in the windows. You can see that behind them. Okay, to be honest, we need to do some touch-ups in the Crypt Church. Okay, that's our next big project. But this space is a sacred space. And this would have been the place where Brother Andre would have prayed. This was built during his lifetime. Okay, this opened in the first 10 years of the 20th century, I believe around 1904, 1905. And this was built, so he would have worshiped here, prayed here, and probably met with people here. That in the lower level of the oratory, right across the hall, and I'll have pictures later, is where he is laid to rest. That is where his tomb is. And in the Votive Chapel, where people come, where there's 8 testimonies of St. Joseph along the walls with all the candles that you will see some pictures with, that is his life, and that's where his heritage is most felt today, in the crypt area and in the Votive Chapel in the lower level. So Brother Andre also wanted to say before we go, he would have welcomed the poor and the marginalized, the people who felt hopeless, the people who sought healing. I come back to the question, or do we do that today? Who does the oratory serve today? And so we can continue. The oratory serves people who feel like they need somebody, people who feel alone, people who are sick, people who seek community, people who seek a safe place to find a home in the church. It also serves a beautiful mission of people of many faith traditions. There's something very special here that Sikhs, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, Jews feel at home here. They feel it is a place to come and to be in a sacred place, a place for prayer, and a place where they are welcome for whom they are. In fact, it's interesting, in the Sikh religion, St. Joseph, as the father of Jesus, whom they recognize as a prophet, is very revered. And while I haven't seen it since I've only been here during the COVID time, but it'll start up soon, the Sikh community often comes for their own worship on Saturday evenings. And they find this to be a real home. But what people tell us and why they come here is that they find it to be a peaceful and prayerful space with the beauty of the natural environment, with the art, with the music, and the spaces for prayer and reflection. And my hope also is that they're received well, they feel the human dignity given to them that sometimes they might not feel in a society that's often marked by prejudice or bigotry. So I believe that Andre welcomes them through us today. I believe as we look at the situation of immigrant and refugee, and we look at the issue of trafficking, some of the issues very important that Pope Francis has talked about, we're starting to make some advances here in Montreal with other groups who are working in these areas, because we think it's also a part of our mission. As you read what our mission is, we want pilgrims, we want this to be a place of religious, for religious visitors, and we want people always to feel the welcome. So that's our hope as we go through who it is that visits our oratory today. We can continue through some of these slides. Once again, that's pre-COVID. This would be the one that just minute. That was the Notre Dame College. I'm sorry, the Colegio Notre Dame in front of us. That would be after their graduation mass on the front steps of the Basilica. The next one that you'll see is part of the pilgrimage. In the month of August, we have a number of activities dedicated to the life of Brother Andre because of his birth month, and it's also summertime. And this is one of the most beautiful sites. It's off to the side. This is actually next to the small chapel, but one of which ends the pilgrimage procession. And this is the final prayer. We've been able to do this because it's been outside. So we've been able to do it the last couple of years as well. The next slide is one of the large celebrations within the Basilica in the upper church, which seats 2,200 people. Sadly, in COVID time, we were limited to 25. You see how far the altar is. Presiding, I couldn't even see the people in the pews. But this is a beautiful basilica. There's a chapel, a side chapel to the left, dedicated to Brother Andre himself. And this is where the little singers, the very well-known singers, the school that's on the property here as well, where they perform in the Sunday Mass. And we have beautiful organ concerts as well. Okay. The oratory is a place where people come to pray. They come for solitude. They come for peace, and they come asking for God's presence in their lives. This is a place for immigrants and refugees. Why do I put this picture here? Because I've been very blessed to establish a relationship with Timothy Schmaltz, the sculptor who did this. This was the one commissioned for the Vatican, which stays in St. Peter's Square, called Angels Unaware. And we have been selected to host this. When the Canadian copy is finished, we will host it for over a year here on our property. We have the place picked out. And this goes in line with the work with immigrants and refugees, as those, who is it that needs St. Joseph today? Who do we invite? If you've seen this work, I know it's been in New Orleans. I know it's been in Miami, in Washington. It was just recently in Chicago. Timothy Schmaltz is a sculptor from Ontario. He's done some beautiful work. He actually has done some on Brother Andre as well. He's done 2 statues of Brother Andre's, 2 sculptured statues. And we also are considering trying to get one of those. But we're going to be hosting this for at least a year before it goes to its permanent home in Toronto. Okay. So who comes to the oratory? All kinds of tourists, visitors to enjoy the grounds, families of all kinds, and to enjoy especially the outdoor spaces. Everybody can participate and enjoy that well. We have a number of groups. You can see that there's one guy on the left. At least he's wearing a Notre Dame University Fighting Irish jacket. Maybe that was before a game, they needed extra help. But part of the pilgrimage that many do when they come is they'll go up the steps of the oratory on their knees, and there's a prayer that accompanies that. And so school groups of students, of faculty, of board members, different groups of parishes will also, our pastoral teams for healthcare, they also come. So who's it comes to the oratory? We can just keep going, but you can see there's these groups. Now, the next one is Brother Andre's presence in our world today. Now, I have a little quiz here. So if anybody, now I'm a geography nut, okay? So this is why I do this. But if anybody can name these places, this is where Holy Cross serves in the world. Okay. Bem-vindo, Ronaldo. Okay, so he's excited because he sees the flag of Brazil. These are the places where Holy Cross not only serves, but where ministries, schools, parishes, clinics, pastoral ministry, programs in the schools to help our students, community residences, formation houses, carry the name of Brother Andre. And in a way, it's like a mission activity stemming from here throughout the world that connects us. In the next slide, you'll see what I tried to come up with, because many of you are travelers and you would recognize on the next slide from those airline magazines, okay? So here we are in Montreal. And I've just started this, so don't get upset if you don't see your city or your country, okay? I know I have more work to do. But when you stop and think, we're all connected, doing good work, doing the very values of St. Joseph and Brother Andre that we talked about, of welcoming the poor and being beside those who need special attention and care, and including them in our lives, and giving them hope. We always want people to leave the oratory feeling maybe a little more hopeful about their lives after whatever experience they have. You all do that in your ministries, wherever you are, and many serving in ministries named after Brother Andre. And so in a way, it shows our connection. We're in this together. We're in this as a Holy Cross family. I have just a few pictures to show, but I wanted to show of some of the Brother Andre ministries. One of the first ones in the United States, which was started right after his beatification, was Andre House in Phoenix. It started, you can continue here. It started as a very small project and has turned into even a much larger project. But the original house was depicted the year I was a volunteer. That was the original house. And it's grown into a very large, the social service organization for the homeless, recognized across by all the churches in town and many of the civic authorities, of a place to welcome the homeless and to give them, and not give them community, give them someone to sit with them, to talk with them, to respect and be with them. And I just think some of the pictures, all done with permission, some of the pictures are profound. Imagine this is in their clothes closet. This guy's getting a new pair of shoes. People donated, people doing it. These are repeated in our lives in different places. The next one is just one picture I have of the clinic. I couldn't get more than the next picture. This is a clinic in Nairobi, Kenya, in Dandora Parish of Nairobi, where Holy Cross serves. Dandora was the garbage dump. And this is now the place called the Brother Andre Medical Center for prenatal care and postnatal care for women and for babies. Clean water, top services for utensils, for caring for the mothers and for the deliveries. So many more are surviving childbirth and children coming to full term. And this beautiful clinic is functioning in the midst of poverty in Nairobi and doing it in the name of Brother Andre. And it's something we all are to be proud of. The next one is one of our newest places. I hope our Brazilians who are seeing this. This is the new chapel at Colegio Notre Dame in Campinas. And they just had one mass for the anniversary of the canonization, and they haven't yet dedicated the new chapel, but it is dedicated to Brother Andre, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, it looks like a beautiful facility, and something that this school community and that Holy Cross in Brazil has wanted for many years. And the next one is at St. George's College. This was when I was there as well, the years of the canonization. We built an outdoor oratory, a place for prayer and reflection on the campus of St. George's. And these ministries, run by Brother Donald Kuchenmeister of the Midwest province in Santiago, is out of San Roque Parish, of visiting the homebound and the poor, and servicing so they're not forgotten, especially the elderly. And so through the groups of volunteers that make the food and do the home visits. And then the next one coming up is just bringing them together in community as well for activities. So the same Brother Donald, who's one of the great guys, along with Brother Matthew Lyons, who some of you have known, they really did the work of the Ogars with the children at risk. And then Brother Donald transformed later to working with the elderly and the homebound. And they've done some great things in the name of Brother Andre. Brother Andre is in the world and is something that we're all proud of. I'm going to be collecting more and more photos and stories of our ministries so that one day we'll be able to have a very good collection of all of them. We're in a big project here at the Oratory, and you can go to the slide. It's a big construction project where we're building and expanding for the visitor center, access up to the dome, expanding our museum, our welcome, and more conference rooms where we can have more activities, because we're starting to venture out, like in the area of working with immigrants, refugees, in the area of peace studies that I've often worked with. We're starting to network with groups here in Montreal that we could host more academic activities and the conferences. This will be really a wonderful addition once it's done. It's in process probably over the next 2 years. We're hoping that it would finish. Now what I've done, I just want to do this last part before we have questions, is just a visit to the Oratory. We're going to go through the slides. I want you to just watch and see, this is where you're invited and where you're welcome. This is where the dream of Andre was, and something that we live every day and we try to care for every day and make accessible. This is his bedroom, which is in that original chapel where he would have lived. And you can see the old stove. This is one of the relics inside the original chapel that people visited. Keep going. So the worship, the music here is so important in both the Crypt Church and in the Basilica. Beautiful stained glass original statues, the art. I just want you to have a visual. This is the Votive Chapel, and this is where the burial site of Brother Andre is. And the people will come and pray at each of the altars dedicated to Saint Joseph. And each of these candles, they ask us to light. And during the pandemic time, we did it online. And so once a day or once every couple of days, people would go down to light the candles. And there weren't many, because the entire heat for this room is done by the candles. And I noticed, like, oh my goodness, it's so cold here in the winter. But now you go through, it's really hot. And they reflect the prayers of it. We're trying to delay as long as possible those automatic lights. We want to keep with the candles as long as we can. And then keep going. This is just, I think, a beautiful picture that tells a story. This is one of the altars to Saint Joseph. This is the main one. This is where people would leave some, like, their crutches behind, or they would leave other testimonies of their healing that they experienced with Brother Andre. This is inside the tomb area along the back wall, and then the next picture will be his actual tomb. So this is the tomb of Brother Andre. It's quite simple. We did light it up for this picture, which is nice. We try to keep flowers with a candle on it, especially on the days that are important days, such as this past week, the anniversary of his canonization. But I put that in there because I'm not sure if many watching would have ever seen this before. But this is right directly in front of our Crypt Church, and it's a very important place for any visitor to be able to come in and pray. And I try to stop in 3 or 4 days a week, and I don't ask them to evaluate how I'm doing, because I don't want the truth. But it's really quite a comfort. This is our saint of the family of Holy Cross. This is our saint, and his humble beginnings and his life story is so incredible. And we care for him in this stage, and we try to keep this dream going to the future and bringing it further into our future. So we'll continue through these pictures of this visual tour. This is where the Saint Joseph oil is located that people will often ask for. That was the 50-year anniversary. A couple outside shots from summer music concerts that we have out in the outside. You can see just the beauty of, that's a summer night. What's nice is the sunsets in the summer are around 9:45 p.m. So it's really, of course, now in the winter, it's like at 4 p.m. So it's a bit different. But it's just some beautiful sights that put you in a sacred space, a place to reflect, a place to be with others. This is the heart of Brother Andre, located on our 4th floor. It's definitely a pilgrimage site to visit and pray. Then there's a display of some of the original settings, and I want to just show a few of these pictures just so that you see them. And then the next one, this is in, we have a wonderful store that sells religious articles and a lot of things related to Brother Andre and Holy Cross, and to St. Joseph especially. One of the great blessings of the oratory, one of the great collections in the museum, is the nativities. We're well known for the nativity scenes. This is quite life-size. The oratory has over 950 public nativity scenes. And they're not all shown at once, but all that are available. I have a few of the images of it because they reflect every culture, every style of art, and you'll see as we go through them. The museum has been closed. What we did last year, we brought many of them out into the public areas. We tried to have music as well so that people could at least experience them as they could walk around. We weren't allowed to have the museum open, but they reflect so much of many, many different cultures of the world. This is a beautiful painting done from the indigenous peoples here in the north of Quebec, and it's really quite beautiful. So you can see, this is one of the stellar things that you'd want to see in the part of the museum if you were here to visit, are the many nativities. This is one of the large masses in the Basilica pre-COVID. You can see the depth and the grandeur of this, and the organ concerts are held. We've started them up again. They're held on Sundays now. And the beautiful art reliefs all throughout the church. This is the chapel dedicated to Brother Andre. Another relic. The back of that same chapel. The stained glass in the basilicas. Just we'll keep going through. The Little Singers Choir. These are now some outside shots where you'll see on the grounds we have a like a park area. We're on a mountain, so you can see out overlooking the city. There's some beautiful sculptures, and also the Way of the Cross that many people have as a part of their experience here of pilgrimage or retreat when they come. Just beautiful. And this is the last shot that is an aerial of our basilica, our oratory, looking over Montreal. And if you look out from this direction and up to the left, far out, you'll see out there Saint Laurent, which is St. Lawrence, which was the original site where Holy Cross arrived in Canada, and where the sisters of Holy Cross, the brothers and the priests all arrived there. We still have our parish there. We have a formation house there, and we have a beautiful, the Mother House, and many of the Canadian branch of the Sisters of Holy Cross, wonderful women who live there as well. So that's a little of the visual tour I wanted to share, and a little of the reflections. And I think we'd be open to any of your, if you have any questions or comments.
Father Mike, thank you. Gosh, first off, I'm just simply in awe and deep appreciation, deeply moved. Tonight was informative. It was inspirational. It was a bit of a retreat for all of us, I think. And as Brother Andre, Saint Brother Andre, brought healing, your words in many ways spoke to us and have brought healing to, I can speak for myself, certainly to my heart. So I thank you. And I know that you worked hard with your communications team, and we thank your communications team. We thank AJ Valverde, our communications manager here at the Holy Cross Institute, for the work that you all did to prepare this really beautiful presentation. We do have time, about 10 minutes for questions, so we really hope that that you'll chime in with any questions or comments that you might have. We are recording those questions and comments, and my assistant Megs Turgeon is going to he's going to be the scribe here. He's going to be the moderator of the Q&A session.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, we have a couple of questions already. Father Mike, I think that there's a lot of people who are wondering about visiting the oratory. And so one question that we had is, if people wanted to plan a trip to the oratory with students or with faculty and staff, board members, could you tell us a little bit about what you might be able to plan for such a visit, what kind of things they could do with the oratory, and what are some of the things that you might envision being a part of this type of sort of pilgrimage or visit to the oratory?
Great. That's an excellent question. Thanks. It's real practical too. First of all, people would be more than welcome. They would have to contact us, and we do have, if it's a group, we do have like an office that handles that. But what I'd want to do for anybody in our Holy Cross family is find out what they are looking for, how many might be coming, who they are, small group or large group. I would say you'd want to have at least a few days. And what I would include is a very nice experience at the oratory, of a tour through the museum. We would look at possible dates if there's a concert or something, one of the music concerts. Probably nicer weather, although you'd be welcome at any time. I think the visit here would be spiritual, personal retreat time, and then I would organize with myself or with others here, people to share more about the story, the real story of Brother Andre, or the mechanics of the place, how it was built, if you're interested in that. So we could do that, or visit of the museum with one of our museum guides that could walk you through there and to just share some of the art that's there. Touring through the building, the outside areas. So that would all be possible. I would also suggest a visit to Saint Laurent, which I mentioned as the original site where Holy Cross arrived. It's actually, all of the properties are kind of adjacent to one another. In our formation house, we have young men in formation from Bangladesh and from Haiti who are studying here, and then they will serve here. And also we have one, he's at the novitiate now, he's a Franco-Manitoban, so he's Canadian. I also should mention that our Holy Cross community here is quite international. So for about 10 or 12 years, religious from Haiti have come, Bangladesh and India especially. I've been talking with some in Latin America and in Africa. We would like to have them join. We've had one Holy Cross sister here over time. I would like to perhaps have more opportunities when that's possible. And so I'd want you to see that. And then the birthplace of Brother Andre is a town called Saint-Grégoire, about an hour from here, to see his home place where his home was, this small little home that had 9 children in it, and then the local parish, and you'd see some of the countryside where that was his original life. It's on the way to the border of New York and Vermont, which he went to the States for about 5 years to live when he was seeking work. And also about a half an hour from us is the shrine to Saint Kateri Tekka. She's buried there. It's a beautiful, very simple, beautiful spot on native land. I'd want to include that for everybody because I find it very moving. And from the grounds there, you can look and you see the dome of the oratory. One of the things about the oratory, because we're so high up on the hill, you can see it from all over Montreal. It's like, one of the emblematic images. So those are things that I'd want to do, but definitely if there's special interest, to try to do some networking with people to, find out what they might like, give them personal time, retreat time as a small group or alone. We also have a residence here. It's a small hotel where people can stay. Obviously you have to pay for it, but it's reasonable. There's a breakfast with it, and it's right on the grounds as well, so it's very convenient. And it fits all different budgets because there's shared rooms and there's private rooms and there's some rooms with a bathroom down the hall, so it's good with student groups. And so those are some of the things I would recommend. We would want to curtail it to what your interests are.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Father Mike. We have a couple more questions that are pouring in. So just one quick, very practical question. How many of you staff the oratory? This is a question from Heather Gossard. How many questions?
Heather, that is an incredible question, and I would like to know too. I believe we have approximately 150 people, full and part-time. However, with the pandemic, and we shut down for a while, some people were working but not coming to work. Others couldn't work. Prior to that, we had about 150 people. Summertime, some extra help of extra workers for more people visiting. Hopefully we'll get back to that, but well over 100 in many aspects, from the grounds crew, our carpentry, they do a beautiful job in all the works that they do. Our pastoral team, we have 26 priests, some of whom are partially retired, but others on our pastoral team. We have the welcome team that is there every day helping the people, helping them get around or directing them in different places. The boutique, the bookstore, a number, besides all the other employees. So it's a considerable number. Very dedicated people.
We have questions pouring in. We also have comments pouring in. So Father Mike, I just want to share some of those really quickly. Ralph Elwart says, we are coming to Montreal next summer for the second time. Hope to see Father Mike then.
Ralph followed me, well, two people after me at Notre Dame High School in Niles. And Ralph, I look forward to seeing you here.
Wonderful. Raymond Maisonneuve says, Father Michael, you did a great job and spoke beautifully to this very sacred shrine. Many thanks.
Thank you, Raymond. Raymond is one of our sisters here in Canada in Saint Laurent.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Sister Elaine Poitras said that was wonderful. The parish in Plainfield, Connecticut, where he lived, has been named for him.
Yes, it's amazing. I think that's Norwalk, Connecticut, Ogdensburg, New York, New Hampshire, Detroit. A couple other dioceses in the U.S. have parishes that are now, well, even our Holy Cross parish in Portland, Oregon, the downtown chapel, which was St. Vincent de Paul, Archbishop Blasny renamed it for Brother Andre. And that's a very important ministry of the U.S. province as well. So there's more and more parishes that take his name in the U.S. And then there's a good number of them in Canada, and also a couple of schools that are named for him in Canada.
Wonderful. And then some other questions that we have coming in. Let's see. You touched on this just a little bit, Father Mike, but could you just briefly tell us a bit about of the story of how Saint Brother Andre's dream of having a chapel came to be? How did that materialize, and how that led to the construction of the oratory? That's a question from Sister Elaine.
That's a great question. Well, he had a lot of support to do it, and the people of Montreal are the ones who helped finance all of this. So they were the people that came to love him and trust him with their lives. And as we all know, anybody in ministry, but he was there for 40 years accompanying these families. And so his dedication to this, like a good religious would say, I would really like to do this. And then maybe some of their lay friends would say, okay, we're going to help you, brother. We're going to help you, Father. And so they would help him do that. And he was happy with that, with the chapel, which was immediately across from the secondary school on the lower part of the property. But then it could not contain the number of visitors. So they decided to go up the hill. And then what's now the crypt was the first part that was built. And that was during his lifetime. And then the basilica was later built by donations. And that, I believe, opened in the large church on top of the crypt, because it's like an 8-story building total. The large church, I believe, was built in the mid-1950s. And so it was through many years and a lot of determination and commitment, and with the support of many people.
Wonderful. Do we have time for one more comment, one more question?
I think one last comment, that would be great.
One last comment, great. This is from Fran Pellerine, just said, awesome. I had no idea the extent of the grounds, the beauty, the history, etc. Would love to plan a trip there, hopefully relatively soon. Maybe I'll come with the Elwarts. Great to see and hear you in person. Please send me your email address so we can catch up. Thanks so much. That was for Father.
Thank you, Fran. And I remember your birthday is 3 days after mine. So, but I think I'm older. But I want to wish you, I taught with Fran in Chicago.
Wonderful.
That's great.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, what an evening for all of us, Father Mike. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Such a treat. And we hope that that this spring for the convocation coming March 24th through the 26th, that you may be able to be with us in person here at St. Edward's for the annual Holy Cross Institute convocation as well. And you mentioned tonight, you referenced, of course, family, and you spoke about the principle of accompaniment. and the culture of encounter that Pope Francis has spoken and written so much about in the last year or so. And we know that one of the core pillars of Holy Cross, and of course, the fact that we were really created in the image of the Holy Family. The question arises today in a modern context, who is our family? And next month's Holy Cross Institute webinar will take place on November the 18th, again, 5 p.m. Central Time. And we've created a panel of theologians and professors and campus ministers, student as well, here at St. Edward's University, who are going to be looking at this question of who is our family. And as I go back to what I was saying in the very beginning, the Holy Cross Institute, and as well, our president, our new president, Dr. Montserrat Fuentes, has made Catholic social teaching and the principles of Catholic social teaching central and core to the work that we do in Catholic higher education, specifically here at St. Edward's University. And she's coined the phrase for St. Edward's University to be a destination social justice university. Really an admirable vision, and she's off to just such a terrific start. So we hope you can join us next month for that webinar. I always love to finish off with this quote from Blessed Basil Moreau to remind us of the work that we do. It is a work of resurrection, which is meant to be a liberation from the darkness of ignorance. It's meant to be a vehicle for the transformation of society, and is meant to be a process that makes all things new, especially the persons engaged in it new. I know that after tonight, I feel renewed and refreshed. And so we thank you. As well, we always appreciate your feedback. If you have some ideas of future webinars you'd like for us to conduct, give us some feedback on tonight's program. You can just click onto that link or take a picture of the QR code, and that will get you into, and of course, I think the link as well is in your chat box, where you can click onto that. It'll only take 2 or 3 minutes, but we really would appreciate your feedback. And so with that, those are our points of contact. So if you have any questions or want to reach out to us for anything, please feel free to do so. I do, before we close out, just want to point out that the most recent publication that has come out from the Holy Cross Institute is this reflection book that was written by Whitney Daly, who's the Director of Mission Integration at Gilmore Academy in Gatesville, Ohio. This is a 29-week reflection guide. And as you can see, the Doorkeeper's Challenge, Reflections on St. Brother Andre Bessette. We are very fortunate to have 1,000 copies of this that was donated through the generosity of a family foundation that was connected to us through the Midwest province of brothers. We want to thank Brother Roy Smith and Brother Ken Haters and the Kiefer Family Foundation for their generosity. If anybody would like a copy of this, we do have electronic copies, but we can also mail you a complimentary copy at your request. The only thing we would ask is that the shipping be paid for. So please email us, hci@stedwards.edu, if you would like to order one or more of these. Complimentary copies of these have already been sent to the US schools, and we'll have more available for those that would like them. And so with that, I know that we're a few minutes over, but again, let's all thank Father Mike for the time and the preparation that he put in tonight. Megs and AJ, thank you for the work that you all do. Again, want to thank Dr. Fuentes for her leadership here at St. Edward's University. I want to thank the Board of Governors of the Holy Cross Institute, many of whom have participated in this program here tonight. And as we close, I like to close as we do all things, as I do all things, and that's to remind us all to remain disciples with hope to bring. So may God bless you. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.